Well, these aren't my regular ones for Saturday, but that will come soon enough. And I should carry on to Sunday and do some of that. But my June 2007 spiritual diary, the first was on a Friday. A rose petal scent offering representing harmony, keep secret, longevity. I watched The Power of Myth, The Hero's Journey. I read Muqtasir, Sahih, Bukhari. Oh, through page 175. Oh, a summarized Bukhari. I read, which is one of the six main Sunni narrators. Picked the Quran, Surah 1, 2, 1 through 20, 255, 284 through 286, 2765, 2776 through 79, 31, 34, 55, 67, 72, 85 through 114. I listened to that and Trance 3, Liber 15, the Gnostic Mass, the Aleister Crowley Gnostic Mass, Sleep Study on Surah 50. On the second, Yusuf Islam, the Life of the Last Prophet, the same portion of Piqth Quran as before, twice, Sheikh Muhammad al Yaqaubi's The Ignorance, the Disease of Our Time. Ignorance, the Disease of Our Time. I went to the Saturday night lecture on death. There was a rose scent offering that I made that day or night, representing transformation, and the sleep CD was on Surah 2. On that Sunday, the 3rd, tranquility, retention, I read Star Wars, Surah 78 through 114, with the Arabic, of course. I went to a Sufi meeting, no other detail with that. I read Surah 85 through 114. To Father, did Subha with him thrice. I listened to the same portion of the Piqth Quran, had a discussion with the next door neighbor, and started the sleep CD on Surah 6. I think there's more that I didn't read on that line, but let's go on. And I offer this as sort of context for some of my studies. A lot of things that became regular have been left out, but I watched on the 4th, Mysteries of the Bible, Heaven and Hell, The Magic of Solomon, Rumi, Poet of the Heart. What does that... Oh, what does that say? So I can't answer that call right now. Surah 1, 2 through 120, 2, 255, 2, 8 through 6. And I've read that to Father Subha with Father thrice. Same portion of the Piqth Quran as 3 days, twice. I listened to Muhammad al Yaqaubi's Marks in the Hereafter. Landmarks in the Life of the Prophet. Is that what it's called? I started Sleep Study on Surah 15, a jasmine scent offering, which I gave the meaning of. I can't quite read that. I want to make sure I got the text. So, comment and question. I'm hoping people start asking me questions when I do this. The 22nd author of the Enochian system is the Void. And I've had some interesting elemental connections, but there's a lot that I want to figure out about it. The ruler of the Empyrean, it's like Teeks. It's one with 4, one who has eyes, with every divine name that's in water. Has the one in all four. Oh, the one with eyes. So Supa with Father thrice. It has a square with 4 different letters, NYLH. So one. Yeah, L. But the first letter is either P or O. Said Supa with Father thrice. I finished the same portion of the Pickthall Quran as the day before. The days before 3 times, and sleeps the on Surah 29. What? I don't see anything I watched, but so on the 5th, I watched Dark Mirror of Magic. The Church of Hermetic Sciences, I have a couple of their books over there in the corner, are probably the best published material you're going to find on the Magic Solomon, but you don't have to worship the various entities. You definitely don't have to combine it with the angels and stuff like this. You don't have to, but no, okay. Sex Ritual of the Cult, minus those scenes, right? Satanist, The Devil's Mass, British Black Mass, Saudi Solutions, Masada, and Dead Sea Scrolls from The Naked Archaeologist. A kind of humorous character. I'm sure the series is over by now. And Apocalypse, the Book of Revelations, and see, how am I covering the screen? So we see here the layout of the one Enochian name, and orange scent offering, beauty. Same portion of the Pickthall Quran as the days before. Supa 4 times. All's beneath. Praise be to. Greater than. And then the testimony of faith, no God but God, and all that. Surah 47, the sleep CD was on. I listened to Muhammad al-Yaqaubi. I wonder why it didn't show it until he left. But so listen, the mirror of the Prophet. I think that's about his physical appearance. I read The Lion and the Serpent, Volume 12, 1, The Perfect Mirror. So particularly in series like this, I'm even more open to comments and questions than I usually am. With guests on the channel, I may not get to anything. I may not see it. Sometimes I don't see any comments as I'm doing that sort of thing. I didn't last time. On the 7th, grapefruit scent offering. Yeah, there's always free things you can use for scent offerings. A bit of appeal here, a bit of this there. I watched Rumi, Poet of the Heart, and nowadays I write my own poetry. And yeah, it'd be nice to be. Rumi is the most. If you count all the translators, he's the best-selling poet in the English language. But it was Farsi, and it's much better in Farsi if you've heard any of it. I watched Witchcraft, World of the Fallen. I don't know what the documentary I was seeing was. The same portion of the Pickthall Quran as the days before, twice, and the Chode, and Yusuf Islam's CD. Chode is a Tibetan ritual where you basically offer yourself as a sacrifice, and it's sometimes accompanied with a ding, 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 bells over and over and over and over again. Sleep City on Surah 83. On the 8th, I listened to Trance 3 twice. I don't remember much about the disc. I think it was Sufi, Hindu, whatever. I don't agree necessarily with everything that I hear or read or watch. Protest. I'm not sure what you mean by protest. Definitely when I have this right here, that little black flag, that's what that means, is that I'm willing to make the effort. And if that's speaking against what seems to be a lie or unjust, or that's what I'm going to do. So that's what's meant by the black flag. Oh. Yeah, I set my redoing of the Martin Luther theses. I posted that. Those videos are done, and they're it's up, but it's scheduled to show up on October 31st. So that will be available to view at that point. Bible battles was something I watched. I read Surah 1, 2, 1 through 20, 2, 255, 2, 284 to 286. The Father, a pink grapefruit. I guess there's white grapefruit scent offering. Prayers. Oh, I also listened to A is for Allah and Prayers of the Last Prophet. Subha thrice with Father. Oh, twice, along with that working. The Sleep City on Surah 25. So yeah, I understand this portion is boring if I don't answer questions for some people, but it's out there for context and such. On Saturday the 9th, I watched Star Wars Legacy Revealed. The same portion of the Pickthall Quran, said Subha with Father twice. I went to the Portland Union Vicar. Neshkatu Layla. I guess the Turks led it this time. That time. Vampire Secrets was something I watched. I read Surah 89 through 114 to Father. I watched the Sleep Studio was on Surah 11. And on the 10th, I watched Jesus, Complete Story, The Mission, Secrets of Jerusalem, Secrets of the Holy Land. I said Subha with Father 4 times. Read him Surah 1, Surah 2, 1 through 20, 2, 255, 2, 284 to 286. Grapefruit scent offering. I guess it's a Texan thing, so you have to think big, but you want to think some of the other citrus meanings of refreshing and beauty and love and all that sort of thing. Oh, pink, yeah, you want to think love when you got pink. I read Summarize al-Bukhari through page 197, and Sleep Sea was on Surah 21. But whatever anybody's experience with the Author of the Void, either where I do the example working at the end of the Goetia series, or I did a video outside of one of those churches, and I was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I read through the Book of Mormon 18 times. And I don't remember how many times I've read through the Doctrine and Covenants and the Pearl of Great Price, but I no longer consider myself under their spiritual authority. Any experience I had or any of that, I'm not going to deny that, but I am, I'm no longer Christian. Where was I? Um, well, because I don't believe Joseph Smith had 8 different versions of his first vision, and I think a God worth worshiping would, you know, be able to forgive us without dying for a sin, and give us the means to be able to do what we need to do, and give us means to maybe atone for ourselves. But I've just found biblical problems even with every single Christian faith. I was taught to believe in the most correct book, and when I noticed contradictions in that and didn't find any contradictions up in there, well, certain people's commentary, but not the actual text itself. I didn't find the problems there, but the focus on the family. I found myself better. I found, okay, I'm not sure where I got. I think I'm on day 11. If I act satisfactorily, I don't know. But I do agree they're better than a lot of churches. They're sort of a mix between Baptist and Presbyterian in their category. Sort of a touch of the apostolic claiming. I watched Noah's Ark, The True King, and Pink Grapefruit Sin Offering. I listened to the same portion of the Pickthall Quran 3 times, and Supah with Father thrice, and I started the Sleep Study on Surah 30. On the 12th of June, I read Surah 1, 2, 1 through 20, 2, 255, 284 to 286. 285, 284 say before we're going to sleep, or after, or at least after, or in the dusk time. And of course, dusk. Some people don't know the difference between sunset and dusk, but dusk is when the twilight is gone. So about an hour and a half average after sunset. No, I'm not an atheist. Said Supah with Father 4 times. I watched Voodoo Secrets, 666, The Sign of something, the Middle Ages, History, Sex, the Eastern Worlds, Ramses, Behind the Myth of Epora, of the Pharaoh. Oh, the Pharaoh. Okay, that makes more sense. I listened to the same portion of the Pickthall Quran, Surah 2. I sleep see on Surah 44. So, one of the things that you'll find in the Arabic, in the actual sayings, you'll find that we believe, me and my spiritual kin, we believe that throughout the world, God, who isn't male, isn't female, isn't limited in such things, the best in all qualities, not unjust or anything to the least, no blood and soil favoritism, no gender or racial favoritism, has sent messengers throughout the world, throughout time. Every group of humanity has had enough of what's been left from some messenger to, to be able to succeed overall at the very least, and to ascend to the highest. But it's very apparent when looking at pretty much everything we have that, that there's been fragmentation, there's been corruption. I'm Muslim, but as I said, I try to express what that means through the terms of various cultures. I try not to, compromise with my faith. I only worship God. So, but I admit that people worship other things, and that's better than being completely arrogant and self-serving and all that. And they may find out stuff about their own faith. They may find out techniques and stuff that will help them experience their thing. And I'm, of course, not going to go to truth about any path. Yes, Allah is the singular and definitive Arabic term for God. You'll find that in John 3:16, as much as I disagree with a couple points about John 3:16. It's, how they translate in Arabic, because obviously the Christians, even being polytheists, they say, oh, well, Allah is our God. They want to be definitive about it. It's not just some random, it's not some henotheistic, anybody who believes in God or Godhead or something like that, they're going to say Allah. That's what it means to them. Actually, a lot of the Bible isn't. I've inherited some Bibles that have verses like in First John, the clearest verse about the Trinity, and it's not about being the oldest. There's a lot of really beautiful stuff like in the Rig Veda and whatnot that's really beautiful, but it's like, being older doesn't mean right. One of the messages was that, hey, Joseph and Abraham and however you pronounce some various other characters, they'd correct the people that are older than them. And it's as I'm saying, it's clear. We have different texts, things that were not included in later versions, things that were included in later versions that weren't, things that are clear to be mistranslated. So if it's older, it's worth looking at things, and as I said, I do try to figure out in the terms of some of these ancient cultures how they would have expressed certain ideas. And so that brings me to the 13th, the Wednesday, June. I read that same portion to Father. The full portion of from the Piqth al-Quran. And what else? Okay, that's it. What I read, I watched Mysteries of the Bible, Heaven and Hell, and that's an important thing that I think. The afterlife has to be a crystallization of your deeds and beliefs. It has to be exacting. It has to be just. It doesn't make sense how, why would things work in a certain way here that it's a lot of that's not going to carry on there. It's kind of hard for me to believe some of the claims, and we're going to swim in oceans of butter and all that other stuff. It's like, I don't want to have an afterlife where I just soaking in melted butter. Allah, Islam, Muslim, they're Arabic words for things that have been talked about for a long time. At some point, Islam was called Mazda Yasnahe, Zarathustra. At another point, it was called Baknachirwa. At another point, it would have been called Satanana Dharma. And, yoga, tantra, religion was called a lot of things. Let's not be caught up on, as I'm saying, it's the idea of favoritism of any particular language or culture or something like that. Now, certain revelations obviously came in certain languages, and I don't think a true scripture would contradict itself or have scientific errors, but I do think that things will be okay. The Sufi Soul, The Naked Archaeologist, Biblical Epicenter, and Holy Hotspot. So 2 Naked Archaeologist episodes, Quest for Dragons, Mysteries of the Bible, Heaven, Hell, Subha with Father twice. So on the 14th, I watched Magic of Solomon. And if you perform a salah, the techniques they go over there is like some of what they're talking about there. It's like you talk to every other Muslim that actually says their prayers. They've had an experience like that at some point. You're just absorbed in the prayer, your vision, and everything else. Magic Jasmine Scent Offering representing rest, Pink Grapefruit. I read the summarized Bukhari through page 263. I listened to the same portion of the Piqth al-Quran thrice. Trance CD number 3, Sleep CD on Surah 5. The Trance, that's actually the name that the company gave for it. Trance 3, Trance 2, Trance 1. I don't think I have except for Trance 3, and Trance 3 is pretty good. On the 15th, I watched Dark Mirror Magic, British Black Mass, Sex Ritual, The Cult, minus the pornographic scenes, Satanist, The Devil's Mass. I have a lot of videos about Satanism written, so obviously I'm going to respond to that whole thing, and possibly a series of live feeds later today or tonight and tomorrow. Let's see what I'm able to do after I eat. Rose, representing concentration and retention, and the grapefruit again. Summarized Bukhari through page 311, I read. And Muhammad Musa Khan, okay, he was the translator. Al-Ghamidi, Surah 1, as the sleep CD. Yes, I agree. Yahweh and Allah, Yahweh and Allah, those Aramea terms, have, they have very similar meanings to Allah. There isn't a Christian who speaks Arabic who would ever say that they don't worship Allah. Because whether they admit that Christianity is polytheism or whether they admit that it's monotheism, Illah Allahumma is exactly the same as Al-Ha, Al-Hin, Elohim. It's just different languages. And I have no problem with the Messiah behind the Jesus story. That is absolutely not what I'm claiming. So on the Saturday the 10th, watch Witchcraft in America Behind the Crucible. I offered pink grapefruit again. I listened to the Fahim al-Quran Supplication in parts 1 and 2. And Picked al-Quran and part 1. The Picked al-Quran, Surah 1 and 2. If you like the Bible style, that would be the one to listen to, is the Picked al-Quran. I used to give out copies because the company that recorded it, but I plan to share a reading of that on my page. But I have 4 Quran translations presented on my page, and you're free to comment a question. I most definitely did, and I actually didn't have to. When you're shown by science, when you're shown by your own teachings in the Bible, the conservative interpretations of your church, that there's problems with your church, and you think that God can do better, you can go with that. Like a Baptist, I run with my experience. If my experience has taught me things, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny my calling. Now, I'm not going to be all psychopathic and, for example, just because I feel like doing something, I'm going to do it. Just because I want to do something, I'm thinking about something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to consider things, which would be kind of Epicurean. I'm going to consider the consequences of pleasure and pain. I'm going to look at it from other angles, perhaps. But my series of motivations, love, hate, fear, and hope, I'm not going to hate beings. I try not to hate beings at all, but there are certain actions. There's certain serial killers and other serious criminals that I don't think anybody would have any problem with, at the very least, that I hate what they're doing. And there's the sickness that would drive the whole behavior. I watched a video. The guy's like, well, I really have no morals, even human sacrifice. Basically, he's implied in the past that he's done. But it's like child molesters. Yeah, you don't want it, at the very least, we're got to protect the children. And rapists and that sort of thing. So the 17th, Fahim al-Quran Supplication parts 2 and 3. A lemon balm. Lemon balm is a great thing. It kind of blankets around the building and it prevents bugs, but it's it's nice for the stomach. Some people have it with lemon, and I started using it as a sin offering. I watched Jesus, The Complete Story Mission. I've gone many times. I trained to be I trained to be a missionary. I read your typical missionaries only read the Book of Mormon once or twice, and I've talked to missionaries, and your typical there are ones that have even memorized the Book of Mormon and know the faith better than me. But I studied piles of enzymes. Who was it? Nibley, Thomas Nibley, or who was it that sort of stepped away from his scholarly position, much like Thomas Aquinas of the Catholic Church stepped away from his position? Um, have you watched my? You keep mentioning the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Have you seen my video that actually kind of says that the confirmed and sustained and stuff that has a biblical basis, and it also the most of the doctrines so-called unique to the church is like you read through the Doctrine and Covenants, it's sort of an obvious conclusion for a lot of things being said in the Bible if you believe the authority of Paul and that sort of thing. But I don't. I've realized that Paul was a philosopher who banned philosophy from everybody. Epicurean, Stoic, Socratic, pre-Socratic, Aristotelian, Platonic, some Asian philosophy, I guess, made its way in there. I don't know what to say beyond that at the moment, but I wrote a series that never made it to the public. 60 philosophers and how their methods basically back up my current faith. So again, a theory thing. Compassion, psychedelic development, and growth was what I was a missionary in my regular life. I shared about the Bible. I shared about the Book of Mormon and the teachings of the church to those who were my friends. To I guess I said some things to people who weren't my friends. And I don't deny that Joseph Smith had some spiritual experiences. But the sort of jinn that would mess with you 4 years in a row and some of the other things, the salamander, as he called it in one case, just like a lot of people who I believe may have had spiritual gifts, I don't believe in following sectarian prophets. When Aleister Crowley said they're all wrong, and, we're going to be right, that's not quite the approach. It's that, some of it, the prophets, the messiahs, Emmanuels, they weren't know-it-alls. Sleep Study on Surah 32. So June 18th, that Monday, I had a discussion with the next-door neighbor, spirit, possession, something about the alt, about the right in the USA. Yeah, I don't. What people mean by liberal and conservative, I don't mean that. You can take whatever information I have. I would hope that when people witness unto my work, that they're drawn closer towards good and truth, away from evil and ignorance, away from wasting their time, that they're helped in experiencing these things. But, that's up to them, how they have this out. So as I share the next part, and I'll see that, what do you believe the purpose of life is? I obviously have my own answers that I have found. So I wrote out fire, the Western the fire versions of the Western tattvas. So there would be like 88 Western tattvas in that Golden Dawn system. Or wait, no, 89. So the fires, the 22 of them, I guess. Pink Grapefruit Sin Offering, I listened to the Fahim al-Quran supplication in part 3.2 through 5.1. And I listen to the supplication every time with that. Sleep Study on Surah 1. Enochian Key 3, 2:30 to 2:40 p.m., 6:27 to 8:08, 6:30 to... Okay. It's apparent I'm not writing down all my Enochian workings, but we'll smack you. Well, fear is definitely an appropriate enough of a motivation. As the Quran says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا يَعْبُدُونَ. Did I say that right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا يَعْبُدُونَ. Yeah. Basically, God has not created us except that we serve him. Be devoted towards him, whatever word you have for that. So anything outside of that, all life can be religious, and that's what the word religious means. So it's down to that point. But just fear of being punished is not going to cut it at all. Well, Godsmack is also a song by Alice in Chains about using heroin, but that's because when you do stuff that is, it sort of becomes like your God. People essentially treat themselves as a god, whether they call themselves a god or not. Their source of poisoning themselves and stuff can definitely take that angle. Okay, let me think of another one. So what do you think happened before birth? Oh wait, no, that's too easy. What do you think will happen after your death? Or during death, in the mystical, spiritual sense. I watched Cannibalism, Secrets Revealed. Yeah, the pretend cannibalism in Christianity is it was easier with that yucky white bread and those cups that left the taste in the water, but yeah, but a God that's beyond flesh. That's what I believe in. Omnipresent, but not this creation in any way. Secrets of Jerusalem, Secrets of the Augean Apocalypse. The thing that people talk about with the Atlantis? Is that what I'm thinking of? Or no. What am I thinking of? The Augean Apocalypse. Secrets of the Holy Land. I listened to Fahm al-Quran, part 5 through 2 through 7:1, and the supplication. Picked all Quran Surah 3, and I started sleep study on Surah. And as I said, when we die, we're going to be questioned, and I believe that we're going to be questioned. There's going to be a waiting period, because if we're going to see the consequences of what we did, our legacy, things can skip things. We're going to have to wait till humanity actually experiences our legacy. Yeah, the neighbor that I mentioned of things, I was clear that a lot of the crime he heard about on TV and stuff wasn't it, that there are consequences. And as far as fearing consequences, the worst of disease, the worst of other consequences that can happen as a result of actions, it's like, can we really say we don't deserve it? Now, victimization, I'm not going to blame victims for things. It's like because drunk people get attacked. I'm not going to say that regardless of what happens to them, it's their fault. No, they're responsible for their drinking. That's the sort of thing I mean. If they go insane or whatever the case is, they're responsible. Now, there are worse things than drinking, obviously, and that involves how you treat others and how you treat yourself even more. So the 20th, I read the summarized Bukhari through page 116. I watched Noah's Ark, The True Story, Ancient Almanac, Moses at Mount Sinai, The Naked Archaeologist, Mother of Archaeologists, and Who Wrote the Bible, Fatima, Secrets Revealed. Oh, my visual's not as good because I'm holding this. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, there's some prophecies, and there's a lot of prophecies, and various entities call things to, allow people to have experiences, but the authority of such kind of, or whether or not they're going to happen, and people make guesses, and that's not what prophecy is. Prophecy is a spiritual gift, and people think of prophets as just future predictors, and that's not what God called, but Satan and other demons, yeah, that's probably what they called. Um, there was a potluck at Masjid An-Nur. Was a couple got married, I think, maybe, or maybe there was a baby. I can't quite read my handwriting sometimes. I listened to Fahim al-Quran part supplication in part 7, 2 through 8, and Citrus Garden Scent Offering. What's that? Enochian Key 5. Okay, yeah, fine. Answer about the what do you believe happened before before you were born? I mean, other than the physical process, that sort of thing. I had a conversation with my with a neighbor on. Okay, what was that says? Oh, hypocrisy. Okay, on the issue of hypocrisy. And now, if I'm going to rebuke someone, it's not going on the page. It's not going in my journal. That sort of thing. So, anyways, but we're not perfect. We all have things to work on, and so I listened to Pick the Quran Surah 4, and we don't know that somebody could be just absolutely horrible and turn their life around and be better than anybody around, and we don't know, and we don't know inside what's going on. Citrus Garden Scent Offering. I discussed the war problem, maybe, with another neighbor. Fahim al-Quran Supplication Part 9 through 10:1, and Sleep City on Surah 68. On the 22nd, I watched The Dervish Project. Said Subha with my father thrice. I read The World of Islam, edited by Bernard Lewis, page 165 through 208. So which one is that? Yeah, it's nice to pick up some of these books. You'll find some interesting books at library book sales, but I've usually had to pay more than like $1 or something, or to get books. Some books, you literally can't find them for less than $100 or even $300 or something. So, but sometimes you buy something for $20 and then it goes way up. There's a book that I thought of getting that's like $400 now, that it was like only 20 when I saw it online, and it would have been an interesting read, but I guess I wasn't destined to read it. Okay, what was I saying here? So on the Friday, the 22nd. Oh, okay, that's what there was a dusk prayer at some sort of high school. And I guess that was part of a the Ijtima people, the Jamaat Tablighi, the Tablighi people. Now, just like a lot of groups, some things have happened with some people that have been a part of that have nothing to do with what the group taught, nothing what that was done as part of the organization of the group. And I left for the Ijtima 8:40 p.m. with some of the brothers from Masjid An-Nur. I think we headed north. We either headed north or we headed south, further up into Washington, or was it over in Oregon somewhere? I don't remember at the time. I went to multiple ones. On the 23rd, I listened to Pick the Quran Surah 5 through 7. When I'm doing group activities, you're going to see the more of that happens, the less entries you're going to see in some of these things. And sometimes there'll be a paper about some of that. I got to be careful about my voice, not to make it too whiny, and it's kind of stuffy in here. Well, in this house. I read World of Islam, page 109 to 372. Well, there's a word called goyim, and ethnos and other terms are not appropriate translations in your Bible. The word goyim means to turn one's back on God, the practical atheism, the actual atheism. You'll have words that refer to polytheism and atheism and stuff like this, and that's what they mean by that. But certainly the evil nations, it's like there is no real theocracy, and I believe in theocracy in the terms of constitutional democracy. I don't believe in, but there are nations that are worse than others. But just like being in a company, everybody's responsible for their own actions. There's good people everywhere. We just gotta, okay. And on the Sunday, I got home from the group 9 something a.m. Supa with father 4 times that day. You are aware that in medieval speech that eating babies was a metaphor for oral sex, don't you? But there are people who have done that sort of thing in this world. The Psalms say, "Delight in the bashing of your infants against the rocks." What, Psalm 137, the last verse, is that where it is? I don't remember. It's like the last verse of some psalm. But people have long been accused of killing children and stuff like that aren't. We got to be very careful about war and stuff like that. There was the dawn sermon. I mean, between dawn and sunrise, there was a sermon I attended to. I listened to Fahim al-Quran, Supplication, in parts 11.2 through 12.2. I watched the last third of the Antichrist. Now, Antichrist is not quite the word I would use, but according to some of the references to Antichrist from conservative and fundamentalist sources, by fundamentalists, I mean, like, the Bible quotes. It's good to try to live a life outside of sin, from sin, the Egyptian word meaning mistake. Let's try not to live in mistakes, moral and otherwise, and let's try to live a life that we won't be ashamed of, that we won't be, that we, guilt and shame. Shame's not a noble virtue. Shame is like, well, I failed people. It's like, well, your own personal sense of right and wrong is, but you work on your own sense of personal right and wrong. Accept correction where it will come. Countdown to Armageddon, something, the first 2/3 of it. This is one of my places to answer comments and questions. But if I get to some of my other series, I will, what's it called? If I get to my usual programs for today, I'm going to share at least the main portion before I answer any questions. It could be 4 lines, it could be longer, and then in between any subsequent ones that I would share associated with that, I would, be open to comments and questions. I'd be careful with the language like that, but there are certain things that are worse than others, and people in the physical sense aren't going to see it. I don't believe in fighting or harming people because of blasphemy, disbelief, or apostasy. But certainly those are very, very serious things. A lot more serious than a lot of things that people may get killed for. But it's important to be careful of one's language. It's like some people and their, if you find something filthy and disgusting and stuff, well, that's some people's personal taste, and there's a better way to approach it. Okay, the 25th, I read World of Islam, page 326 to 360. Egyptian Book of the Dead, Knights Templar, in It's My Country Too, British Muslims. Muslimun would be the proper verbiage. What did I read? I read something to Father And teaching of, okay, what does that say? Naked Archaeologist, something? Did I watch something of that? Oh, Teachings of Rumi. I'm not sure what documentary that is, other than the name I wrote down, right? Rose representing luck. And by using stones and herbs and stuff, it's like the temple offerings where you're dedicating something to what you worship, to what you worship. It's not that I worship the whether this life or the next. I'm not looking for people to have, but if you go around trying to shame people, you can turn them deeper, particularly when they're stubborn, when they have stubbornness and arrogance as part of their character. You can turn them deeper into their problems. So please be careful with that. I Sipha with Father twice, 12.3 through 13, on the 26th. Supplication, okay, 13.4 through 15. Picked Quran, something 82.9. I don't know what the citrus sign offering. Yeah, I try to get whether and I can move with other people's traditions as far as I can witness stuff with a lot of stuff that I don't agree with, and I can pick out the parts I agree with and the energy from, and I can kind of work with that. And don't call it psychic vampirism is kind of a predatory term for it, so people misuse that energy. But Geisha Girl was a documentary I watched. Now, I don't believe in sacred temple prostitutes, but there's certain principles of health and longevity and performance that are important to consider. Sales CD. Oh, did I go over the? Yeah, even if I disagree with some stuff, I respect some people. I do see how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, along with the Catholics, as Christianity falls below the point of, in the coming handful of years, we're going to be a country that's not mostly Christian anymore, and the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints and the Catholics, it's hard to say which one of them is going to be the top church at this point, because Catholic, right? Whatever it is, people are members of different churches for reasons that aren't as quite as consistent. But yeah, it's because the focus on the family, trying to be righteous, a lot of ideas that are going to support some of their group. Okay, so that's why you asked about that. Okay. I watched Ancient Almanac, David Poet Royer, Sukhavati, Place of Bliss. Wonderful Joseph Campbell documentary. It takes so long, and I don't know if only a couple people. I don't know. Only a couple people may end up seeing my video if I take days editing a video. So I'd rather spend days or months or even, over the course of years coming up with certain ideas and getting something forth than doing a video like that. But at some point I may edit some stuff. I don't believe people should be whipped for accidentally farting in church, but if they're like, but if you literally believe that the Bible is the Word of God and you try to follow the parts that don't contradict the other parts and are, it makes more sense claiming the authority of the Bible if one's going to do that sort of thing. But anyways, Mythos 1.1, Psyche and something. Was there 10 episodes of Mythos, the Joseph Campbell series? Selections from the mythology of Star Wars. That sounds like an extra on that disc, doesn't it? Ancient Mysteries, The Lost Spirit of Cambodia. Cambodia has sort of a not Islamic, but Islamic influenced movement, and they're kind of having a revival over there. But they have some old faiths, Buddhists, and some other stuff going on there. The Naked Archaeologist, Where's Mount Sinai? Well, there's a lot of Mount Sinai's, but the real Mount Sinai episode kind of narrows it down for you, makes it some very good points. The principle, the principle, if it was really God's word unadulterated, going directly to it and trying to follow that and not trying to. Now you can new things. John Calvin was a little cut back when it came to new things, and I am open to new things. You can follow the new principles everywhere. I mean, the Bible says that you're supposed to wear this a blue or a purple thread, and it was really expensive. I think even in John Calvin's time, but it was becoming cheaper. It wasn't 8 times its weight in gold as it was in one period. Okay, what's this? Decoding the Past, Heaven and Hell, something, the Pharaohs, The Secrets of the Ancient World, Sex Underground, Cities of the Underworld, Freak. Okay? Let me at least show that. Maybe somebody can read that. I had a discussion with. Who did I have a discussion with? I had a lot of discussions with the Princess of Cups, but I didn't quite. Bina. So that would be the left shoulder. If you got the body, 5 down the middle, 3 on each side. I listened to the Fahim al-Quran supplication in part 15, part 5, 3 through 15, 3 through 17. Some void stuff. That's one of the things that came forward in the Gnostic things. Void is in, God existing where nothing else is. I'm in God and God is in me doesn't mean that because if God's truly omnipresent, God would be beyond, would be in every direction, really. The biggest and the smallest around everything in between, but not the creation. And void is in, void, not like anything in anything. That's actually one of the things that I recite on a daily basis is that, but one of the things, the cloud of unknowing, I don't know if that's quite the right phrase for it, but sometimes to have one's experience to learn and everything else, we have to kind of step outside what we think we know. As much as, Aleister Crowley, I think of him as a sectarian prophet sort of thing, so not quite the spiritual authority over me. But Aleister Crowley, he said that we should separate ourselves from the external and the internal conditioning that is not part of our true will, our true purpose of life, our specific of what we are supposed to be. That way of expressing it, I can't help but agree with that. Now, having sex with a bunch of prostitutes, being addicted to heroin for 50 years, that part, and maybe biting people and doing some vandalism, I'm going to have to step away from that and a couple other things. But and certainly he was a victim of some trauma, and the way that he dealt with that was some ways. But trying to experience things, it was the smoking that they gave him heroin for, and heroin, of course, was safer than smoking at that time. But he also, his comparison of religious experience to drugs kind of cued in the fact that, hey, what Mircea Eliade and many of others have said is, you can have all these experiences without the drugs. And Crowley was a person who you can look to, and he actually, as Symbogon citratus. Lemongrass. Lemongrass is a great plant to grow. You get a little thing for like $5, and you end up growing like $30 or so worth of lemongrass. If it freezes and completely to the point where it just doesn't survive, that's fine. If it just so it's an interesting plant nonetheless. But clairvoyance was one of the meanings I put to that. Enochian key 12 and 13, 6:30 through 6:50 p.m. I read Majid Fakhri's translation of the Quran, Surah 1 and 2, 1 through 107. Let me at least show you where Fakhri. Okay, yeah, it's that one right there. I don't remember anything unique at the moment, but okay, I'll get to that later. I'm not going to be obsessive about picking that thing up repeatedly. I wrote out the water Western Tattvas, and I think I mentioned it already. The Golden Dawn has a system of 89 Tattvas, which show the different portions of the Enochian table, which is 25 by 27 characters. But you don't have to think of it in that context. And the Eastern Tattvas are a more direct way to look at it, but it okay. I listened to Fahim al-Quran 17:2 through 18 and the supplication, Sleep Studio on Surah 43 and the 29th. I think I may be interrupted very soon, so let me get through 30, and any further comments and questions, I'll try to, I'll try to respond as I go along. Pickthall Quran, Surah 13 through 16 was what I listened to. Fahim al-Quran, parts 19 and 20. And the supplication. I listen to the supplication every time. I don't always repeat along with it. I don't always repeat along with the things that I'm watching or listening to. I sometimes do, but there are certain things that people say that Evola, I'm not sure what Evola is. Is it a chemical? Is it a I don't use intoxicants. If it's a musician, I'm not familiar with the name or philosopher. Scent offering, representing contact to other planes. Son of fire. So I'm thinking that's lemon balm again. Not lemon balm, lemongrass. I read an interpretation of the Quran. That's Surah 2, 108. Julius, if that sounds familiar, but I can't put two things together. That same translation, 108 through 206. I wrote out the Western Tattvas of Earth, Sleep Sea on Surah 1, and on the 30th, I watched Mythos 2, The Spirit Land. 1.2, is it? 3, on Being Human, Lemongrass Scent Offering, representing divination. Divination in the sense of dedicating my thinking out things process or free association process. Sleeps Beyond Surah 3, something scent offering. And I'm getting another call, so I'm gonna close this soon. I listened to Fahim al-Quran supplication plus part 21 and 22, Picked al-Quran 17 through 18, and I read through 207 to 286 of the Majid Fakhri. But I keep getting calls, so I'm going to have to close this. And I should get to, today and tomorrow, I should get to my usual Saturday/Sunday program. I don't know when various people, it sounds like I have a band that agreed. I'm trying to get a particular actor to let me interview him. Nargargle Schlad, he's agreed. JD Tab, EA Wedding again. So I'm going to try